Welcome, my friend. Here at the Self-Help School, I'm passionate about helping you improve your life and your character through empowering book summaries and YouTube videos. Today we're going to look at You Are Awesome by Neil Pasricha. I actually reached out to Neil last week after I've been scrolling through the new releases on Amazon, and I told him how I thought his book looked very interesting, and I asked if he could send me a copy online so I could check it out and perhaps give him a review on YouTube. And of course he was generous enough to do that. And Neil seems like a very warm-hearted person who cares a lot about people. I can just see it from the emails that he sends and from the way he writes his books. Neil loves to think, speak and write about intentional living. He gives over 50 speeches a year at places like Google and TED, and he has 6 books on the bestseller lists, among them The Happiness Equation and The Book of Awesome. Books that I'm highly likely to review in the future. Now, the book we're featuring today, You Are Awesome, is all about how to develop resilience, where most people have become an army of porcelain dolls, where we are just shattered, we are crying, we're lying on the sidewalk if we feel that we fail, that things don't go like we want them to go, or that we kind of mess up at times. And Neil shares 9 secrets for how we can develop more resilience in this fragile world. Today we'll look at 3 of the best ideas. They are 1. Add a ... 2. Become an inflatable clown. And 3. Quantity beats quality. Let's begin with the first big idea. Add a ... There is an ancient Taoist story about a farmer, and it goes like this. One day, the one horse the farmer has runs away, and his neighbors all say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that's so bad. You must be so upset." And the farmer just says, "We'll see." A few days later, the horse comes back with 20 other horses, which the farmer and his son then reels in, so they now had 21 horses instead of just 1. And his neighbor says, "Oh, that's so good, that's incredibly good. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, you must be so happy." And the farmer just says, "We'll see." Then one day, one of those wild horses that they have just caught kicks the legs of his son and breaks them both. And his neighbors are saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that's so bad, you must be so upset." But the farmer again says, "We'll see." And then a little time later, conscriptions are being had for war. And they are sending out all of the young people from the village. Turns out that all of the young people die in that war. But the son was not conscripted because he had broken both his legs, so he couldn't go out there, and he survived. And then the villagers are so happy for that farmer and says, "Oh, that's so good, so amazing, you must be so happy." But again, the farmer just says, "We'll see." And what this story shows is it can be have a lot of different lessons. But what we are focusing on here is that when something goes extremely bad or really good, we usually feel either highly elated or highly upset. Usually it's the latter. We feel upset because things seem to go wrong more often than they go right. But when you feel like you fail, it's almost like you say that the story has ended. You add a period behind your sentence of your story. But the thing is that you can let your story continue by adding a ... You don't have to just write one sentence and add a dot like you do in a usual document, because usually there is more to the story to be had. And therefore you can add a ... and wait for what's to come. This actually helped me one day when I was doing a 10-kilometer running test. I love competing in obstacle races and I need to measure my improvement over time. It turned out that I had actually decreased my performance over time. So I could run like 1 kilometer an hour slower than I actually could 8 weeks ago. So that was quite a bummer. I felt pretty frustrated. But then I just remembered this idea of adding a ... This poor performance doesn't mean that I'm never going to be able to compete at a high level in those obstacle races. It just means that I did some things these last weeks that didn't work quite well. But I can learn to do them better, and then, in other words, the story goes on. I know that I'm going to improve again. So when it seems like you're a total failure, don't add a period, add a dot, dot, dot. Let the story continue. What's one time when you felt like you totally failed, but as you let the story go on, you actually got to a better place than you were because of that failure? Please leave a comment below. Our second big idea is become an inflatable clown. How do you build resilience? There's a very simple metaphor that you can use in order to do this. Have you ever seen one of those inflatable clowns that perhaps are at birthday parties or at some amusement parks? You know, that those big inflatable clowns where if you punch them and they go down to the ground, they just get back up again. Give them a violent bear hug by jumping on them and they fall to the ground and they will just get back up again. You take a big bat or a hammer and you punch it so it also goes to the ground, it would always just go up again. Because it doesn't matter how many times we fall down. What matters is that we get back up again. You might have heard the ancient proverb, fall down 7, rise 8. You might also have seen Rocky the movie with Sylvester Stallone saying that it doesn't matter how hard you hit, but it matters how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's what actually separates the winners from the losers. We don't want to be porcelain dolls that smash into a million pieces immediately when something goes wrong, if you get a punch in the face. We rather want to be like an inflatable clown who goes down but then gets right back up again. Can you remember one time recently when you got knocked down but you got right up? Please leave a comment below and I'd love to follow up with you there. Our third big idea is quantity beats quality. Have you ever asked a wedding photographer how to create such amazing pictures that they do at their weddings, such that everything seems almost like a fantasy land of happiness and joy? Well, if you actually did, you'd notice that almost all of the photographers would say that I just take much more pictures than most other people do. Because if you take 1,000 pictures over 3 hours, which is like one picture every 10 seconds, then you're bound to get about 50 or something that will actually be good. What matters here is that the photographers have a huge quantity of pictures taken and therefore the quality will be immensely high. If they instead went the other way around and tried to take 50 pictures perfectly the first time, they would find themselves failing and they would also berate themselves for not getting better results than they actually did. This is also true in other areas like baseball. If you look at the best scores, like the people who hit the most home runs and have the best batting score, they will also be the ones who have failed the most. They have got a strikeout, they have missed the ball, and they generally failed most out of everyone in the entire sport. So quantity beats quality. Another good example is Mozart, one of the greatest musicians of all time, arguably. By the time he was 5, he had actually practiced more than most musicians do in their entire lives. His father drove him to practice all day long, every day, and that's probably a very big key to his great genius. Not just having that genius from birth, but actually being practiced and drilled until he developed that genius through practice. Personally, I can see this with the videos that I create. If I try to make one video absolutely perfect and I will not release it until every single piece of detail is perfect, then I would probably never release these videos because none of them are perfect. But what matters is to over time produce such a huge quantity that you get those small distinctions and you get to learn a lesson here and a lesson there for how you can make your product better. And that's where you go from me speaking in a robotic voice on my first video on how to become a straight A student at my YouTube channel 5 Big Ideas, into speaking more fluently English after practicing over time, and also being more natural instead of following a script for these videos. But what's one activity where you need to focus more on quantity and perhaps not as much as perfectionistic quality? Of course, we want to improve both over time, but where do you need to do more to get better? Leave a comment below and I will follow up with you there. Today we looked at 3 of the best ideas from You Are Awesome by Neil Pasricha. They were all about how to develop resilience. First, we looked at add a ... where you will not add a punctuation mark, a period, when something goes wrong and you feel like a failure. You instead add a ... and let the story continue. Second, we looked at how we should become an inflatable clown, where when we get knocked down, we get right back up again for an infinite amount of time. Third, we looked at how quantity beats quality, where a wedding photographer creates amazing pictures if they take lots of pictures and then cherry pick the best ones afterwards. If you feel that I gave you some valuable tips for how you can develop your own resilience, please give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on tons and tons of empowering ideas from self-help book summaries and from other YouTube videos that I make. If you want more content that will help you improve your life and your character, then go to my blog, frodeosen.com. I have a link to it in the description at the very top. I hope you liked this video, and I will see you in the next one.